And these could be players that may have been involved in the TGL, the Top Golf League, that just completely folded because of a collapsed dome in Florida. So maybe guys who thought that had gotten their money to be poached away to be safe somewhere else, once that whole entire thing fell apart, well, now LIV's back on the table.
You know why? Because the check didn't clear. Folks, LIV Mayakoba is kicking off in a few weeks, and we still don't know what's going on with Jon Rahm's team. We don't know the name. We don't know who's going to be on it. There's a lot of question marks. Let's put it that way. So I've got the resident golf fashion and LIV knowledge expert, Jake Spangolf, on.
Welcome back to the channel, folks. This is getting really interesting as always. Now, last season, if we base it off of what we know from LIV Golf's experience in the last season, they kind of wait till the last minute to give you all the details. That's perfectly okay. If that's their model, that's the way they want to go about it. Look, if you really think about it, we give them a lot of passes because there's so much that goes into the creation of a LIV Golf season. However, it gets interesting. As Pence says, we don't know the name of Rahm's 13th team. We don't know who's playing on it. We hear the conversations from Greg Norman talking about how there's a bunch of guys that are on the telephone, a bunch of guys that are begging, a bunch of guys that are like, hey, man, I'll give you my first two children if you let me on the team. That kind of thing. Pence, what are you thinking?
He specifically put out there on Twitter, X, that he didn't want anything about a bull. Everyone's like, El Toros, Toros, Toros. Big Boy Pants Golf came up with probably the best option, the Ballers. That has not been picked up by anyone. To me, the Ballers is the obvious choice. The dude made more money than everyone else. He now makes Brooks Koepka look like a pauper.
Hey, but Brooks Koepka looks pretty happy these days.
Cut to fireworks.
Yes. But that being said, you're right. That'd be a cool name, being the Ballers. It would make sense. It would flow. It's something that doesn't come up in general golf conversation because it's kind of tricky with these names because you want it to be something golf related, but not something that would come up and interrupt general golf conversation. That's why certain names just are a little tricky to work around, like Punch. For instance, Punch GC. Sounds like a cool name, but when you realize it, there's a lot of golf shots that really are just punching it out of there. So that word would come up in general conversation and commentary, and it's kind of like you don't want to double dip on the actual word itself. So maybe that's what's going on with Rahm right here, where you don't want to make it obvious to where it's like a name-based specific off of Rahm to where the team can last past Rahm's legacy. And at the same time, you don't want it to be something that's going to interrupt or disrupt your general golf commentary and make it harder for Foltzy and Faraday to have a good day.
I mean, they could have gone with the Rhombos. No one would have objected to that. It's a pretty badass name. And let's say a bunch of years down the line, they don't want to use it anymore. You could always change it, but like iconic nicknames, the Golden Bear, the White Shark, some of those just stand and there's so much power in them. The Rhombos could have been an awesome option as well.
It could have been, but I understand Rahm's desire to not make it a name that lives only in him. But we're going to find out probably within the next week. I have a feeling that of all the things that are in the air left over for this season, the first thing to get announced will be Rahm's team name and logo, which will probably come out in the next 3 to 5 days. And then the next week, we'll see his actual roster get revealed. And then the next week, we'll see like the actual season previews, like 5 days before the teams actually take to the field. And that's where we'll see like the full rosters and their full iterations with their full new team colors, maybe a few logo redesigns, and we'll see what happens then.
I know Rahm doesn't want anything about bulls, but imagine you can kind of leverage the bulls, just no Spanish, just the bulls, and then some type of play on a Michael Jordan logo. So you can start kind of tying in there so you want it so close that Michael Jordan considers suing you. Maybe you're not dunking a basketball. Maybe it's not, flying Jordan logo, but Rahm is doing something badass. It's his silhouette. And again, the bulls. And now you're associated with 90s greatness.
Well, here's a funny story. If you really think about it, his swing angle, if you made the logo his swing angle, it would almost look like with a driver head at the very top, like it's the Jordan logo.
I think we might have come up with the logo right here in case the LIV Corporation people are needing some answers. You know what? Let's get into the roster right now.
Roster is very interesting. There's lots of rumors out there about who could be, who couldn't be. And the fact that it hasn't been announced yet, when there's still a couple of things, shuffling around up in here, I really think where things are sitting right now, we have to go back to two comments from other people in Live Golf to really understand who could be in the roster. One of them is Greg Norman. So Greg Norman, before the last end of the year, he was talking about how he's had to field like 11 phone calls from like players who are attempting to weasel their way onto Rahm's roster. And I say weasel not like in a mean way. They're doing what they got to do to get on the team.
In Spanish, that would be El Weasel your way.
El Weasel. Yes. El Weasel. So they're doing the El Weasel move to get on the team. And who those players are, more than likely are mid-level to high-level PGA Tour players. We've seen Rory McIlroy soften his conversation lingo, almost like he's preparing himself for an exit himself. It is conversation lingo being changed over the past weekend or so. So we think that they're probably mid-level to high-level stars. The check for the TGL really was just a conversation killer between Liv and those players. That's all it was for. It wasn't ever going to actually exist. All it was there for was just an opportunity to stop the conversation, to stop Minwoo Lee, Lucas Glover, a bunch of other players from saying, you know what, those guys will treat me better, even if it's just for 1 year.
That's all you want out of any relationship, romantic or otherwise.
Just 1 year?
Just 1 year. I mean, we're in the TikTok era, dude. If you can get a year, that's equivalent of back in the day, 27 years.
So wait, so you're saying like nowadays, like after you hook up with a girl, you have to do like a TikTok dance?
If you're a true pro, you do a TikTok dance while you're hooking up.
But here's the thing, though. The other conversation point that you have to ask yourself is...
Don't pretend you're not still focusing on that TikTok comment.
I am! I'm 100% got myself doing like a mental image of me, Natalie Portman, and doing a shimmy dance.
So let's get into that roster. He needs one Scottie Pippen. He needs at least one dude who's, 25th to 50th. And then you can have a couple other guys on your team like the Majestics just filled out because they probably have the lowest salary cap for a team on the LIV team.
You're exactly right. If last season of LIV Golf proved anything, it proved that you needed a full roster to compete. Cam Smith, Brooks Koepka, great players, went out there, got the job done, won multiple tournaments, put in amazing performances, elevated the league standings inside the league and outside the league. Their teams couldn't do jack squat because it was a one-man show.
Well, to me, honestly, take out Jed Morgan and put in Derek Jeter, same results.
Well, Derek Jeter can't golf.
He has a horrible swing, but again, my point still stands. His scores would probably have counted just as much as Jed Morgan.
And that's the reality of it right there. That's why there's certain teams that I'm actually nervous about. The Range Goats, in many ways, in my opinion, took a huge back turn. I don't know if Bubba Watson just didn't want to pay up or what, but Range Goats they're looking more like the Niblicks of 2022. So now who is potentially on Rahm's team looking at it from the Phil Mickelson perspective?
Give us the Phil Mickelson perspective right now. Stop holding out.
I'm sorry. I want a grandstand, okay? I only get so much time to be on the greatest channel on golf.
YouTube's hottest golf channel.
YouTube's hottest golf channel. So, real talk, Kevin Chappell, Martin Trainer, maybe Kazuki Higa, just possibly, but probably not anymore because Junichiro Kazuma qualified and Kazuki Higa didn't.
Higa missed literally 50 or 55% of his cuts last year. He gets the invite to the Masters. A big no on that Kazuki guy.
Oh,
also,
yeah.
He's pint-sized.
I mean, I haven't looked at his height specifically, but I was just saying that the gloss still hasn't quite worn off of his name from his initial splash. That's all I'm trying to say about that. However, so yeah, Kevin Chappell, Martin Trainer, and then possibly a Laurie Cantor situation where, yes, he screwed up on the playoffs at the promotion event, but Liv already knows him. They already know he's a company man. He's not going to go out there and do some stupid stuff, take his pants off on CNN. They might want him back.
I'm good with all of that. We don't know what's going on right now. I do know that LIV Promotions event was one of the best events of the year. I was so focused knowing how much these guys would. It's literally like you're in a gladiator stadium. Either you slay the tiger and you live, or you get killed and you get eaten.
In a lot of ways, it felt like the closest thing to a real Squid Game that we're ever going to get, where these guys were literally, they know, especially the PGA guys, Martin Trainer, Kevin Chappell, those guys know, hey, I am defying the beast, so to speak, to be here, because, you know, the PGA said initially, we're not going to be mad if you go play the promotions event, and then a day before, oh yeah, you go play the promotions event, we're going to sanction you, we're going to enforce some penalties on you. And so those guys, especially the PGA guys, were risking everything to go over to this event.
To me, what's awesome about these guys, now they're the LIV Promotions guys, they got full playing status. You're all on an equal playing field, same week in and week out. With the PGA Tour and the Korn Ferry Tour guys, completely different feel. You got to fight for your starts. I'm surprised the PGA Tour gives the guys from the Korn Ferry Tour equal range time. I'm surprised they don't just say, hey, no range time for you. You go warm up in those nets over there. You can do some stretching, but do not hit any practice balls. Folks, what do you think Jon Rahm's team name is going to be? It's going to be released any second. Who do you think is going to be on his team? And as I pointed out in my last video, if I get 5 Big Boy Pants Golf t-shirts purchased off of www.bigboypantsgolf.com before that LIV event, I'm turning what I've been accused of is wearing a wig. I will turn this into a Cam Smith mullet. I will not dye it blonde because that would affect my scalp health.
Got to protect your scalp.
Subscribe, share, and like.